Hey everyone, welcome back to the Foundry by Forge College. We are fresh off our last lesson on end-to-end testing and debugging, and man, today we're tackling something incredibly exciting. We're taking that real-world asset prototype we've been tinkering with, and we're going to wire it right up into a fully compliant transfer flow. This explainer is a really critical piece of our broader track on the Solana ecosystem, so grab your notebooks, we're moving out of the safe theoretical testnets and diving headfirst into the messy operational reality of traditional finance.
Okay, so here's our architectural game plan for today. First, we'll look at the RWA transfer challenge, then the compliance checkpoint, followed by atomic transfers, which is all or nothing. After that, we'll cover printing the settlement receipt, verifying and debugging, and finally, the handoff to the real world. Let's get right into it.
First up, the RWA transfer challenge.
So here's the thing. When we're dealing with real-world assets, we are trying to bridge the literal lightning-fast speed of Solana with the, let's just say, very slow terrestrial rules of traditional finance. And what happens when that crazy on-chain speed meets those strict off-chain rules? Honestly, chaos. Just imagine accidentally transferring a tokenized Manhattan penthouse to an anonymous wallet that legally isn't even allowed to hold it. Yikes, right? Minting tokens in a vacuum is super easy, but integrating them with the real world? Now that is a fascinating engineering puzzle.
Moving on to Section 2, the compliance checkpoint.
Right, before a single token can move across our digital toll road, we have to build what's called a compliance gate. You can kind of think of this as a super strict digital bouncer standing at the door of an exclusive club. Before any transactions allowed inside, this bouncer checks the VIP KYC list. It's basically an on-chain program, or a sequence of instructions, that explicitly checks a compliance flag and verifies all the required authorities. And, just like in real life, if your name isn't on the list, the bouncer turns you away, and the token transfer just flat-out fails.
Now, the real engineering magic here is how we actually arm that bouncer without leaking sensitive data to the whole world. I mean, we obviously don't want to plaster someone's passport on a public ledger. Instead, we simulate an off-chain KYC check. First, we call a local HTTP endpoint to get an off-chain status. Second, we receive a compliance token, or a timestamp. Third, we include that token as a signed payload in our instruction. And finally, the on-chain program validates it right at transfer time. It's an elegant way to prove compliance on-chain while keeping that sensitive identity data totally off-chain.
Which brings us to Section 3, atomic transfers, all or nothing.
Okay, so let's say our digital bouncer actually approves us. Awesome. But we still need a totally foolproof way to guarantee the transfer completes perfectly, or doesn't happen at all. And this is where the absolute magic of an atomic transfer comes in. An atomic transfer basically groups multiple instructions into one single transaction. Picture a sealed envelope. Inside this envelope, you've got your compliance checklist, the actual money, and a blank receipt pad. You push that entire sealed envelope through the mail slot. Either the whole thing goes through and gets processed together, or it bounces back entirely. There is literally no in-between.
And this brilliantly illustrates why atomicity is so incredibly critical. In a non-atomic transaction, you're risking an absolute bureaucratic nightmare. Just imagine if the token transfer succeeds, but then the compliance check fails a split second later. You're suddenly left in this broken, legally non-compliant state. But with an atomic transaction, all the checks and transfers succeed together, or the entire thing just fails and reverts right back to zero.
So, the crucial point here is how we actually stack our transaction script. The literal code steps look exactly like this. Step 1, the pre-check compliance instruction. Step 2, the SPL token transfer instruction. And Step 3, the post-transfer receipt instruction, all of them bundled together. And hey, by the way, if you're looking to get really hands-on and practice building these exact environments safely, Forge College has dedicated applied learning programs that walk you through scripting this out line by line. It's hands down the best way to make these concepts stick.
All right, Section 4, printing the settlement receipt.
Once that atomic transaction finally goes through, we arrive at the very last action, printing the receipt. Because look, an auditor isn't just going to take our word for it, right? They need a lightweight, verifiable, on-chain receipt emitted directly into the program logs. The required data points here are pretty straightforward but absolutely essential. You need the unique transaction signature, the block time or slot number, the public keys for both the origin and the beneficiary, the exact amount transferred, and most crucially, the compliance result code. Think about what a tiny, minimalist string of JSON text looks like floating in the logs. You know, it just has the compliance OK, the transaction signature, and the amount. That is your literal stamp of approval. If an auditor comes knocking, you just point them directly to this log that's tied to the immutable transaction signature, and boom, your compliance is mathematically proven. It's so clean.
Moving on to Section 5, verifying and debugging.
Now, building the engine is really only half the job. Now we have to test it on a localnet validator to make absolutely sure it actually works. So let's just walk through this QA checklist. You're going to run your script and validate 3 specific things. For the pre-check, you'll expect the program log to explicitly say, compliance okay. For the transfer, you want to see the transaction actually confirmed and the origin balance has to decrease. And for the receipt, you need to verify that you have a signed receipt file with a valid signature and timestamp. If your localnet run matches those expected outputs, your engineering is totally solid.
But let's be real for a second. Things are definitely going to break along the way. So here are the most common pitfalls you'll likely run into. First, missing required signers. I gotta tell you, there is truly nothing quite like the sheer comedic dread of accidentally sending your tokens into the digital void, getting a massive error, and realizing you just forgot to sign the transaction. Poof. Second pitfall, mismatching token account owners. And third, this is a big one, assuming an off-chain check is enough without bringing a verifiable artifact on-chain. Remember, if it's not verifiable on the ledger, as far as an auditor is concerned, it simply didn't happen.
And finally, Section 6, handoff to the real world.
All right, it's time to roll up our blueprints and prep to hand off this localized demo to the capstone reviewers. To make your project really portable and readable, you've got some final cleanup tasks. First, tidy up your demo script so someone else can actually read it. Second, add a detailed README. Seriously, do not skip this step. Third, include some sample receipt files from a successful run so the reviewers know exactly what good looks like. And finally, ensure modularity. You want your code structured so nicely that third-party KYC providers can just be swapped right in down the line.
So, we've designed the toll road, we've hired the digital bouncer, and we've printed the receipts. The only question left is, are you ready to run your own compliant localnet demo? I highly encourage you to open up your terminal and test these workflows for yourself. It really is the absolute best way to learn. Now, to dive deeper into this subject, grab the code snippets and explore tons of other Web3 applied protocols. Make sure you visit Forge College. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I will see you in the next one.